Welcome to Stories of Brisco and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw. That would be your Chickasaw native, your Chickasaw Hall of Famer, Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Brisco. And we just lost our guest. There he is back. He is the former world heavyweight champion, former ECW champion. He is an All-American at that damn university north of the Red River. He's undefeated in MMA. He is Mr. Jake Hager. I've never called him Jake in my life. Today's the first day. Mr. Jake Hager, Jack Swagger, a.k.a. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for the beautiful introduction, JBL. You can call me whatever you want.
How about me, Jake? I mean, can I call you anything I want? You know what I call you all the time. Damn effing sooner. I won't go into it there. just because you guys, Jake, you take us back a little bit. You know, first of all, you're living in Tampa, Florida now, right? Somewhere in Tampa, Florida. Were you spared by the Hurricane Milton?
Yep. I was up here in Citrus Park, so we're pretty elevated, no flooding, a lot of wind, a lot of big old trees blown over. I got a little bit of a leak in my roof, but
a little bit. Yeah, that's what insurance is for. You got the blue tarp up. Everybody with leaks got the blue tarp up.
Yeah, I got a leak in my roof and a leak in my ass. What am I going to do, you know?
Well, we won't go there, but welcome aboard, man. It's great to get you on. I've been trying to get you on, and I believe it or not, I just stumbled across your number here recently, and I gave you a call. But you're a hard man to get a hold of, and plus you're right in my neighborhood too. I'm right up in Keystone area there, so we're neighbors almost. Welcome aboard, Jake. As John said, you've had a hell of a career throughout your life there, and you're from Perry, Oklahoma. And those that don't know, you should know Perry, Oklahoma is also the home of the great Danny Hodge. And how familiar were you with Danny Hodge when you were growing up?
When I was growing up in the wrestling capital of the world, Perry, Oklahoma, Danny was right down the street from me, and so him, me and his grandson would go over to his house in the backyard. We're playing touch football. So I was very close with Danny, and such a blessing to have such a legend. I didn't even understand it at a young age who he actually was. And it really wasn't until, I got a little hair on my balls and I understood how bad this man was.
Did you ever see anything that he did with his grip strength or anything? I know he's an older guy at the time. Did you ever witness any of that when you started realizing who he was?
When I started wrestling in Oklahoma, you go to the big tournaments like Tulsa Nationals, and they would have Danny come in because he'd be a spectacle, and they'd make a moment throughout the crowd that it was a 2-day tournament, but once a day, Danny would come out and he would crush an apple on the mat, and you just see the chunks of the apple on the mat, and all the 7-year-olds were like, "Oh."
Amazing man, Danny was. I got something that you probably like. You might even have the thing. I got a copy of the Perry phone book, which is about this thick. Danny Hodge's picture on it. Probably the only wrestler ever, but he was the only wrestler ever to get a picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and he probably only wrestler ever to have a picture on a phone book. And Danny was famous for ripping phone books apart too.
Incredible. I got to do a report on him in college. Yeah, that's the type of assignments they sign at the University of Oklahoma, and it was very interesting. I got to interview him, and I learned a lot of things I didn't know about him, which I kind of assumed. He told me one time a big group of people from out of town, we'll assume it was Blackwell, 4 of them, 5 of them.
And that's a good assumption.
Yeah, right. And Danny ran them all off, beat them all up, about 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, one Blackwell.
Told me that they would go on runs with the Oklahoma wrestling team, and he would let the entire team start in front of him, give him a 5-minute head start, and he would still beat every single one of them back.
I believe Hey, JBL has a great experience with Blackwell road signs, and Danny Hodge and my brother John. You want to share that with Jake?
Yeah, we had a day off one time, Jake, in Oklahoma. So what do you do when you have a day off? You go find the Blackwell city limit sign and you take a leak on it. You take a Polaroid picture of you taking a leak on it is what you do.
Oh,
So
right.
yeah, so I'm sitting out there. First of all, I'm sitting out there. Barry Windham is behind me. We got the Polaroid camera, way before cell phones were even thought of, and way before cell phone cameras were thought. We got the Polaroid camera, and I'm sitting there and I'm taking a leak on the Blackwell city limit sign, and Windham's taking a picture. So, and a guy pulls up and he goes, Mr. Shaw. And it was Sheik. It was Iron Sheik was out there with Rikishi in the middle of some dirt road on a day off. And he thought my name was Brad Shaw. So when he sees me, he says, Brad. And I'm sitting there. I said, yeah, Mr. Sheik, how are you? He goes, is everything okay? And I said, well, yeah, I'm just pissing on Mr. Briscoe's hometown. He goes, oh, you're such a fine boy, Brad. He goes, Mr. Shaw. He goes, you're such a fine boy, Mr. Shaw. And he drove off. So then I get to catering, and I'm so proud of myself because I've got this photo of me pissing on this Blackwell sign, the Stillwater sign, the Oklahoma, all this stuff. We spent the whole day doing this, and I hang them up for catering. I can't wait for Jerry to show up and see this stuff in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right there in his home state. This is great. I can't wait. You know, he stretched me a million times. What is he going to do? Stretch me a million and one? So I'm like, this is fine. So I'm sitting there waiting for him. In walks Jack Briscoe.
Oh, shit.
And Danny Hodge. And I'm sitting there and I look and I go, oh, shit. No, shit. So I look around and there's the only door is the one they're walking through. So I start getting up to like go by the wall, you know, like when they go up and see the pictures, I'm gonna go behind them and I'm gonna get out of there before they get me. And as soon as they see the pictures, they see me, and Jack just stops me. I go, oh no. Danny said, oh, you're really funny. You're a ribber, aren't you? And he grabs my hand and he grabs my elbow. He screwed up my elbow so bad from just gripping it. I could not work out for about 3 months. Wow. And I'm down to my knees in catering. I'm going, Mr. Hodge, I really don't think I'm funny. Can I apologize at any point to you? Oh my God, he tortured me. Literally, I thought he broke my arm.
Wow, that's one hell of a story, Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Shaw, that's right. I've never had a rib backfire that spectacularly in my life.
Talk about like all the people who could have walked into the room.
The two meanest, toughest men on the planet walked in the room at the same time. I'm expecting Jerry, who's bad enough. I know he's going to beat me up, but he's done it before. Jack has never beat me up, and I'm scared that he won't stop. But you know, did you know the thing with Danny? Did Danny ever? Because I broke in with Akbar, and he used to tell me all these great stories about he and Danny Hodge. You know, he loved Danny Hodge. Everybody that knew him loved Danny Hodge. Yeah. Did Danny ever help you, Jake, as far as wrestling or as far as working out or anything? Did you ever take up the rolling up the newspapers in your hands like he did for his grip strength?
No, but I should have. Got these frail little Sooner hands. Danny helped me a lot with amateur wrestling and like more of the mindset when it came to conditioning and like just almost like everybody loves to say it these days, being all in, like being completely committed. And like at such a young age, I think that was very instrumental. As far as like once I got into the business, I would see Danny less and he would come to our shows, but we would hardly ever talk about like in-ring stuff. We would just kind of catch up and tell jokes.
And then they loved that. Jake, take us back then to your beginning. You were a multi-sport athlete. You played football at the University of Oklahoma and also wrestled, which is very, very tough to do for you people out there that don't know it. It's almost on that impossible time because you got to make your grade, you got to stay eligible, but it was OU, so that part was probably not too difficult for you to stay eligible because of the University of Oklahoma. But you got all this social stuff and everything, your two sports. How did you get interested in amateur wrestling? You moved into Perry. Was your family wrestlers, or a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I had two older cousins about 8 years older than me that were A6 All-Americans in North Dakota. I was born in Fargo, and then my dad worked for the Ditch Witch of North Dakota, and then the big headquarters for Ditch Witch is in Perry, Oklahoma. So we moved down there, and just by lucky fortune, it so happened to be the wrestling capital of the world. And dude, any form of wrestling I could get my hands on, I wanted. I looked up to my cousins. One of them had like such a sick headlock. Just I was like, and so that got me into amateur wrestling. And then Perry had a great youth program. So many people would come out for it, and it was just when I was very young, like I started when I was 5. I sucked.
Wow.
It really wasn't until I was in high school till I was like any good. But because I loved it so much and I just like wouldn't give up, I kept at it. And then my balls dropped when I was 16, and I put on some size and went up to 215, and I started having more success amongst the bigger weights.
Yeah, cool.
What was the difference between your love of either football and wrestling? Which did you like more?
Man, you know what? I really enjoyed playing football. It's funny. I really enjoyed playing football. Um, it, it's hard to compare the two because, like, I feel like both of them make you good at the other one. I think, like, deep down, I have to say that wrestling is my first love, but football is so much fun. You get to train a little bit differently. 7 seconds of explosions versus 7 minutes of pulling and straining on your body. And on that note, I enjoyed fighting MMA even more. When they would close that door behind you and you have permission to hurt somebody, I enjoyed it. I guess I'm sick.
Jake, that's an interesting point you brought up because I love the point when the guy does his first like fight and that gate closes for the first time because you guy either feels very comfortable, very excited, but you don't feel normal. I mean, shit happens. That's when it goes. When that first gate closed, now you've been in a million wrestling matches, big wrestling matches. You're an All-American. You're just world class wrestler. But when that gate first closed behind you, that first MMA fight, what was your thought?
I had a
Did you
smile on
feel
my
good?
face.
Did you feel happy? Did you feel comfortable? What were you thinking?
You can go back to the tape. I was smiling. Like I was confident that I was prepared, that I trained hard for it. I knew my opponent, and like I had put everything on the line. Because if I lost, I feel like that would have had like implications on my pro wrestling career. So I really enjoyed it. And like right before they closed the gate, my coach turns to me and he literally says, "You have permission to hurt this guy." And I don't know why I needed to hear that, but it was like, okay, the switch is on. We're not in practice anymore. Let's go make the money. And man, punching somebody in the face, getting punched sucks, but punching somebody in the face feels really good.
That's
Who,
awesome.
who were your trainers? Did you train here in Tampa, or did you go out of state, or how did you get involved in MMA?
Yeah, I called Dave Batista and I asked who his MMA coach was. And it turned out that I knew his MMA coach the whole time. We were drinking buddies, and I never knew that he was a former UFC guy. His name is Josh Rafferty. He was on UFC One, the Ultimate Fighter One, the first show with it that really made the UFC big. And he hooked me up with Rob Radford out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And Rob is a world famous boxing coach, one of the best. I forget the Cincinnati guy that he coached. It was right at the beginning of the UFC. Anyways, I had him, and then I had a bunch of jiu-jitsu guys in Tampa. One named Josh Stouter. And I ended up going so far as getting my purple belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So is that the extra training because you were an accomplished wrestler, as John said earlier? But when you're doing MMA, it's so many disciplines of the martial arts here. what was your weakness? And then was karate and all that. But did you think your success of being undefeated was from your amateur wrestling background?
Well, my coaches thought my weakness was that I was a diva.
Of course
Well,
they
you
did.
know,
They're
we
coaches.
can agree with them.
You know what's interesting too with the amateur wrestling is my coaches were very confident that I didn't need to do any amateur fights and that I could go right into pro because I had 1,000 amateur wrestling matches in my lifetime. And if you think about it, an amateur wrestling match is very similar to a fight, except there's there's no punching, there's no kneeing people in the face. So when I first started off, my weakness was kickboxing for sure. Oh my gosh, my kicks were horrendous. I wasn't flexible. I couldn't generate any power with it. And that slowly, I slowly got better. It's one of my strengths right now because if you watch my last fight, it was pretty much 3 rounds of just kickboxing. My Oklahoma ass couldn't take them down, so I started to use my legs.
I loved your MMA career because I saw every one of your fights and I was rooting for you as much probably as anybody on the planet was because I wanted you to succeed so badly. But you had R-Truth out there. You're doing We the People. You had heat in the MMA. It was awesome. I'm sitting there going, he has got massive freaking heat. I loved it. Was some of that, obviously some of that was kind of orchestrated, I say, as far as R-Truth. Were you thinking that you're going to get that much heat doing that?
You know what? I didn't. And it was really just kind of like using the pro wrestling background, knowing how to respond to a live audience. Like it was the second fight, and I thought that I hung on to the submission too long when the ref was pulling on the other guy. He wasn't pulling on me, letting me know that it was over. And, I just having fun with it. And once that turned, I get it all the time that everyone says that was like one of my best promos I did. And it was just so cool to use it. Like you had them in the palm of your hand. You're like, oh, guys, we've been doing this for a while. You're going to go for a ride if you keep going on these emotions. So it was so cool to be a part of that.
It was awesome. I loved every second of it. I said, the guy's got massive freaking heat. It was just fantastic. And you were playing up to it. It was just, and you were undefeated. It was just great. Why did you stop? Because you were doing so well, and plus you were becoming the biggest star on every card you were on because people wanted to see you fight because there's so much attention around you. Why did you quit?
Yeah, there was getting a lot of views and ratings with the fights. I had 3 fights in 2019, and at the end of that year is when I signed with AEW. And in my head, I was going to still fight as much while working with AEW, and then the schedule just kind of like overtook it. To really be successful in MMA, you have to train very hard. And if you're not training that hard, you're going to get hurt. You're going to go in that octagon and you're going to get hurt because you're not prepared. And like my third fight or my last fight, I should have finished that guy, but I had a bad training camp. I wasn't as motivated. Like when I first started MMA, I had to win. I had no other sources of income. Like I was putting everything on the line. My back was up against the wall. Like, dude, I was seeing red. And towards the end of that, I feel like I didn't get not hesitant, but I lost that drive to go in there and be a killer because I didn't have to. And I wish I would have started MMA sooner. And then after my 4th fight, I had retina surgery. My retina got slightly detached from it. And after that, I was training hard. This was like 2022, and Top Team was coming to AEW, and they were appearing on the show. And this was Andre Arlovski, the big guy. And I even went down to Top Team and trained with them for a week during 2022, trying to get a fight. And Bellator was kind of done with me. My friends had left that were high up in the company there. They didn't want to pay me, anymore. So they didn't give me a fight. And at the end of that, I was like, all right, I just got to retire because
Jake,
Yeah.
what was the attitude of MMA purists and fighters when a professional wrestler steps into their world? What type of reaction and what type of reception did you notice any animosity towards you or anything like that?
American Top Team is one of the biggest and best MMA schools
That's in Fort Lauderdale, that down in South Florida. Right?
Yeah, Dan Lambert owns it and runs it.
Yeah.
It's really Steve Mocco was there. How cool was that,
Yeah.
Jerry?
Steve Mocco is that where Mo's at there too, right? Mo.
Yeah, yep. And so, how cool is it? Like, 18 years after Steve Mocco and I wrestled in the National Division I tournament, that he's helping me train for a fight. It's so cool. His son was in the other room. His son's in high school now, like just a complete badass.
He's a stud.
Yeah, just a class act. And so, like, you think walking in the Top Team as a pro wrestler, you're gonna get some animosity, but everybody was so professional. Everybody was so cool, like just accepting, and like I can definitely hold my own. And so I think they felt that vibe. But at the same time, there wasn't any like meatheads saying this is local. And I told somebody that I was like, man, everybody here has been so cool. And they were like, really? Have you met any Brazilians? And I was like, hey.
Did they have a little bit different attitude towards you?
I don't know what they were implying with that. We probably should just move on to the next question.
You played at a very high level in football and obviously in wrestling. Was MMA? I've always thought they're the best athletes in the world, the best trained athletes for sure. Would you agree with that from what you've seen in all your years of sports?
I think if you are at the top of the MMA game, you're training almost every day, whether you're the champion or not. You just have to stay consistent. You have to stay you got to keep your body in there, whether it's a hard practice or a low practice. So like Jerry said, you got to be so good at every single discipline. So there's always going to be room for improvement. And you just see the evolution of the athlete and what these guys are doing and the styles of fighting and what they can do. It's really cool. And I'll say that the MMA fighters are the best athletes.
Yeah, I've always thought they were. You gotta know so many different disciplines, and it's just their training is almost subhuman the way they train. It's unbelievable how hard they train. I think people realize how hard it is to train for, especially if you're doing a championship match, 5-minute rounds where you've got to do everything. You got to defend on the ground, you got to stand up, you got to kickbox. You got to defend the front shin from getting broken. It's really a chess match between two really highly trained human athletes.
Yeah, it really is. I love it too. One of the things that I learned first was that my boxing coach, Rob Radford, wanted to impose on me was it's about the nervous system. Like if I'm not within striking distance, your nervous system is telling you everything is cool. But if I come a little bit closer, all of a sudden your body feels that it tenses up and it's reacting, it's using energy. And it's about staying calm, not getting angry, and knowing when you're in that zone and when you're not. And the nervous system has a lot to do with all the technique, and I found that very interesting.
Your nervous system, when you speak of that, I mean, the nerve, they control your conditioning, they control just about every aspect of your physical being out there. Were your nerves, I mean, were you ever, when you go in, were you ever nervous when you go in there? That's a strange question, but I know standing across the mat, you got nerves when you look around and see your environment, and see who your opponent is. Did you have those feelings when you're fighting MMA?
I more had those feelings when I was training. I was worried about getting beat, so I was fucking working my ass off. I credit pro wrestling a lot to not being nervous. When the red light came on and the cameras came on, I knew exactly what to do. I'd done it for the last 10 years. So being on live television gives you a lot of experience to do other things when it comes to nerves because you can handle it.
Did you ever know the other great two-sport athlete at Oklahoma I wish we'd had MMA for him back then, because that guy might have ran it for about 20 years. Dr. Williams.
Yeah, so cool thing. When I was at OVW, WWE brought in Dr. Death to kind of like, kind of coach me a little bit. When we did a couple tag matches together at their summer shows and whatnot, and he kind of just put me under his wing. And he was like coaching other people there as well, because we had like Robert Gibson of Rock and Roll, and we had Doc. And so I thought that was very cool. And this was 2007, like early 2007 when they did this. And then I think he passed in 2008. So it was right before that. And what an honor. What an honor. I got a picture framed in my office of me and him tagging together.
Yeah, he was, Jerry will tell you, he was one of that man was a badass. I mean, just everything about him was badass. He was just a different level dude, man. He was a great worker
sure.
too.
Yeah, great. I'm sure, Jake, you heard of the riot. He calls it Gallagher Hall when he punched out his opponent's brother that came down on the mat to challenge him. He punched it up, knocked him out cold. He's a football player, by the way, and knocked him out cold. And the whole guy Gallagher Hall, of course, is OU Bedlam, and the place just. They had to call the match for like 20 minutes and let everything settle down before he could finish the match. Then he went out and pinned his guy later.
Oh, that boy bad.
Yeah,
That
Man,
boy
I never heard
bad.
that story. Yeah. That's so cool.
We need Ryan Clark here to tell that boy bad, because that boy was bad. That was a bad man.
Man. So what did he get? He got second in wrestling, right? Division I runner up, and then he was a Division I All-American offensive lineman.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Sort of like you.
I'm not even close to that.
So, Jake, when did you decide, when you're getting out of Oklahoma, when did you decide that you wanted to be a pro wrestler? Did you grow up watching pro wrestling? I know you knew who Danny Hodge was, but did you know Danny more for his amateur or for his pro or for both? When did you become a pro wrestling fan?
Yeah, it's really funny because I was an amateur wrestling guy and I took it so seriously. My dad and I kind of would make fun of pro wrestling, but we didn't know. And it really wasn't until the Monday Night Wars when I was in junior high when I really became a fan of it and got enthralled with it. And I could never figure out, like, how are they doing this? Like how are they? And so I became a fan of it then. I forget the question. I'm sorry.
I was asking when you became a fan of pro wrestling and started thinking about maybe this is for me.
Right. So then that was junior high. Then I went to high school and I got away from it. And then in college, I met Jerry like halfway through. And Jerry's a great guy. And he was like, get your degree. And if you want to try an opportunity in pro wrestling, great. So it was like January of 2006. I'm graduating in May. I'm doing all types of finance industry job interviews. They're all just kind of like sales, kind of cold calling. And I was like, this is I want the sexy stock market. And so I was kind of turned off of that. And I called Jerry after about 5 months of that. And he's like, all right, go out to Deep South and let's see what you got. And the rest is history. I moved out to Atlanta in July of 2006.
And who was running Atlanta then?
Bill DeMott and Jody Hamilton.
Yeah, and we had great.
Oh man, the stories that guy would tell. And then we had he's gonna kill me. I can't remember his name. The British guy, friends with Regal.
Dave Taylor.
Dave Taylor, the man. Yes.
Yeah, his father was the English champion. Dave was a heck of a shooter too. Dave was a world-class wrestler as well.
On the first day of practice, they had me lock up with Dave because they knew I was a shooter and they knew I didn't know shit. And he's like, all right, lock up with me. And I locked up like I would in a wrestling match. And he was like, God damn it, get the fuck out of here. It took like 15 minutes before he would talk to me after that.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And I love when the big tough shooters like, you stiff bastard, like they care, like they care at all. It's just it's all they love to be dramatic.
Yeah,
because he obviously doesn't care. He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
You guys had a hell of a crew there at that original Deep South Rousing too with Joe there. You guys had some great talent in there, right? I mean, some of the guys that you were training with.
Yeah. I started with a lot of guys that are doing very well right now that were down there.
Who was in your class? Who was in your class that ended up making it?
Dolph Ziggler was in my class. The Bella
really?
The Bella Twins were in my class. Let's see, Sheamus was like right after me. Santino was right there. I was in OBW when Santino flew to Italy to do that surprise match.
Intercontinental, yeah. So you were also then at that time frame. You were also the one of the initial classes of FCW when they received and reopened FCW. Then, right?
Yep. I was 6 months at Deep South, 6 months at OVW, and so July of 07 was when FCW started, and so that's when I moved to Tampa. Told my dad I was never leaving Florida, and then like July of 08, I became the first ever Florida heavyweight champion for FCW.
Right.
and was Kern was the main guy then, right?
Yep, Kern and Dr. Tom, and then slowly Dream came in with what's his face, Norman Smiley.
Norman Smiley's one. Norman Smiley's one of those coaches that don't get a lot of props all the time too, but he's a valuable commodity to that brand down there.
Absolutely. You ask any wrestler that's trained under him, and they love him. They love him.
Yeah.
Every time Ron sees him, he just says, "Fooling him, just fooling him." Because Norman doesn't ever say anything. He just shows up and he's just the nicest guy in the world.
Oh my God, this is funny. I saw Ron and Godfather and Boogeyman at a signing convention in January in Jacksonville, and the convention put Eric Bischoff right across from those guys. So they're just staring at each other the whole time, and they're smoking or whatever, and they're just talking so loud. Like, man, I gotta stare at this motherfucker all day long.
What a crew with Ron and Godfather and Boogeyman. What a crew.
Yeah. I just want to be their friend. I'm on your side, guys.
Yeah, but I want to be their friend.
Yeah, I don't know who you're against, but I'm on your side.
Yeah. So you're basically called up. You were called up fairly quick for your amount of training, I believe. That's great.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years in developmental, I'd say. I was at the FCW for about a little over a year, and still, it took me that long. The hardest part for me being a shooter was like learning how to be vulnerable. Like, I wanted to be the tough guy. I don't want to be pinned. You can't go behind me. But like pro wrestling, you got to create those vulnerabilities to get people to really care. And like once I understood that, and like I think everything else kind of made sense. But I always attribute to the in-ring work very much to an amateur wrestling practice. To us, this is just drilling,
Yeah. Drill.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, amateur wrestling, when you were making the decision to go, when you were sharing with your friends, because I know I got the reaction. I couldn't wait to go over to Bennett Hall and tell all my buddies that I was going pro wrestling. I was going over to work out in Tulsa at the Cane's Ballroom. That's where Leroy broke the guys in at the Cane's Ballroom there. But I couldn't wait, and I'd run in. Oh, you're going to do that crap? Why are you going to do that crap? You're a wrestler. I said, I know that's the reason I'm going to do it there. Did you get any friction from your buddies that what you were doing, or were they supportive of it?
No, all my buddies thought it was cool as shit. Like the first time I told my dad, though, was right after he paid for a lot of my college degree, and he was like, he didn't take it so well. He's my biggest fan now, but you should have seen his face when I told him that I wasn't going into finance.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine, because when I started talking to you, I think you were on the verge of accepting a job in Dallas, Texas, one of the big financial companies down there, and then you changed your mind. So that had to, Dad, I'm not going to take this guaranteed money. I'm going to go out to Atlanta, Georgia. on a promise, kind of like I gave Layfield there.
That's
Well, how
exactly
much
what
I
happened to
want,
me, Jack.
and then so you're giving up guaranteed money and pension, all this stuff to go chase a dream of professional. I can imagine that conversation with your dad.
Hey, but you know what? The financial crisis happened in '08, so like I think I made the right decision.
Yeah, you did. You did. You did. I was working on Wall Street when the financial crisis happened. You made the right decision. That's why I'm doing. That's why I started doing commentary again.
I'm
Nobody
sorry.
get anything done except for Goldman Sachs.
Oh man.
Hey, when Jerry signed me, Jack, I went up to New York, and I hadn't seen my dad in a while because I've been in Europe for a couple years, pretty much nonstop, and come home. And he knew I had gotten an offer from WCW, which I think was $75,000 at the time, and which I hadn't made that much money my entire career. And WWE back then just offered you a deal. Basically, we're going to give you a booking contract and we're going to book you. There was no money to it. It was 10 guaranteed matches at $150 each. So $1,500 was your guarantee for the year.
Wow.
But it meant nothing. It was just a signed piece of paper.
Yeah.
And Vince told you that. He walked in and goes, that contract's not worth the ink it's written with. He goes, but the handshake is. And I thought, oh shit, I like that. So
Yeah.
I wanted to go to WWE. I liked Jerry, and Vince is, nearly everybody, right away likes the guy. And I've met him up in Stanford. Well, that's where I want to go. So when I came home, my dad, who was a community banker, says, so you got a job? I go, yeah, I'm working with WWE, the big company with, Hulk Hogan, all those guys. Says, yeah, I'm working up there. He goes, oh, great. He goes, well, you got what, 75,000 from WCW, right? I said, that he's the other group. I said, yeah. And he said, and what'd you get from WWE to take it? And I'm him on around. I don't want to tell him I didn't get nothing. And so finally I said, $1,500. And my dad just looks at me and goes, shrewd. Oh my God. How do you explain that to your dad?
Yeah. You don't.
But back then, that's you took the opportunity. Vince didn't offer you deals. He offered the opportunity. The older generation doesn't quite understand that. Like your dad's thinking, you got a college degree I helped pay for. You got a job, and you're doing what? It had to take a little bit to settle in.
Yeah, it definitely did. And once he learned about pro wrestling, like he understood that. Like I'm sure at the time I told him, he still thought it was real. But once I understood that it was like a performance and like it is a great opportunity, like more than anything, this is the best opportunity that I found coming out of college. And so I completely agree with that. Like sometimes you got to just go with your gut and, like, hey, I like this person. Let's give it a chance.
Jack, you got really good at pro wrestling, obviously. You Money in the Bank winner. You held world heavyweight championships everywhere you've been. You enjoyed wrestling right away. You enjoyed football. Did you enjoy pro wrestling right away when you first started training with Jody Hamilton and the guys?
I did. I found it very interesting how hard it was to make pro wrestling look good. Like people make it like look effortless are the great ones. And they're doing something incredibly difficult, but it just looks smooth and like it should, how it should be. And then you see people training that are just learning and they don't know their ass from their elbow. And you see a lot of like, man, that's kind of ugly shit. And I always hated that. And so I really got enamored with having a smooth match. And like I really pride myself on like being able to work with big, small, whatever. I feel like I got very lucky when I was training, and I got to work with so many different Hall of Fame coaches, and I got a little bit of everything, and very grateful for that.
Yeah. So when they called you up to the main roster there, how did that situation go? Walk us through the phone call and who it was from and what you were told and how you reacted.
Yeah, so like before they were bringing people up, they would have you come to TV and you would do a dark match, and they get a look at you, and then if they were liking what they saw, they'd do another one, and I did about 3 in a row, before they said, all right, your name is Jack Swagger. You're going on ECW. You're debuting tomorrow.
Did you have anything to do with the Jack Swagger, or was that a sign name when you come out?
No, I had a meeting with Vince, and of course I was nervous and I was smiling. And he's like, oh, look at that smile. I hate it. So I wipe it off right away. And he's like, no, it's great. They're going to boo you. And so I think he got it from there or whatever. But my grandpa's name is Jack. So I thought that was very cool that I got to be named that. And then, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What did you like the name, Ron? You got it right away? Because people sometimes get names, they're like, I'm not sure that works. Did you like it?
I got very lucky because this is 2008, and right after I debuted, that popular T.I. song, "No One on the Corner I Got Swagger Like," came out. So swagger became a very popular word at that time, probably because of me. So I was very happy with the name.
What was your first thoughts on meeting Vince? Did you meet him up in Stamford for the first time, or at a TV show the first time?
Yeah, I met him at a TV show. It was in Cleveland, and they had like 3 of us who were about to debut. Go into his office and sit with him and John Laurinaitis, and just kind of ask questions. And like, I don't even remember what I said. I think I told him that John Wayne was my favorite actor. I've seen like one movie, but
well,
that's one of those things where
he picked the right one. He picked the right one because he's a big John Wayne fan.
Oh, really? So I was just kissing ass then.
So you're brought
things, Jack, where you're saying, they ask you what's your favorite actor, and all you're thinking is, what's his favorite actor for me to say that? Because I don't have a favorite actor. Nobody really has a favorite actor. It's like, okay, what's the correct answer? So you pick somebody tough like John Wayne and go, oh yeah, John Wayne.
Yeah, he's got a good swagger to him, John Wayne.
He does have a good swagger to him. That's true. Yeah.
So you brought up, who would you place with first and your debut?
So it's so funny. My first dark match I had was with William Regal, and about 4:00 during the day, I go up to him. I go, "Hello, Mr. Regal. My name is Jake. I think I have a dark match with you tonight." And he just goes, and walks away from me. Doesn't say anything. We had a great match. We put it together later. I don't know if he was ribbing me or what he was doing, but it was good shit.
That gave you a lot of confidence, huh?
Yeah. Testing the waters, I guess. I got lucky. I got to work with Matt Hardy right out of the gate. He was the ECW champion. I got to work with Fit, which was amazing. I always knew if I did a good job with Fit, if the shillelagh at the end hurt or not. If it didn't hurt, I knew I did good. I didn't mess up. If it hurt, I knew I needed some corrections.
He one time, I was doing commentary with Michael Cole, and during the middle of a match, Michael has his hand on the table. Michael's doing commentary. He's live, doing commentary, and Finley just reaches over and whacks his hand with that fucking shillelagh. And Michael Cole on live TV goes, "Oh, get out!" It was great. I've never heard anybody laugh like Vince did backstage. It was the greatest thing ever. Yeah. Finley was a menace. I love him. He's one of my favorite people in the world, but what a great guy.
What a great guy. We were overseas one time, and we were in Amsterdam, and all the boys were wanting to go out. And Lillian Garcia wanted to go out with us. And we were like, and Fit kind of caught wind of that. And so he was like, hey, Lillian, it's probably not safe for a woman to go out, with the recent attacks or whatever. So she's like, oh, you're right, Fit. I'll stay in. So all the boys got to go out, have a great time. He said that with all the attacks, you got to watch. What was it? It was one of the terrorist groups, anyways. So the next day, all the boys went and pitched together and got a 12-year-old Scotch for Fit. And we just put it on his desk, and he's like, "Who's that from?" I was like, "It's from the terrorist group."
That's great. That's great. You know, Finley one time in Thailand had hornswoggle sold to a Thai businessman. Yeah. He got some drunk Thai businessman and he was selling hornswoggle to him. Hornswoggle's like, dude, you can't sell me. We'll get you back.
We'll get you back.
Fit was the best. I have no idea where he'd come up with all this stuff. It was just, he has got a very obviously intricate brain.
Yeah. And talk about a real shooter as well.
Yeah, real tough guy, real shooter. Yeah, Fit's legit.
Yeah.
So when he came up, what was your first storyline when he came up, and how did you feel right away? I mean, did Vince have much interaction with you right away?
Yeah. I was a Vince guy. I think he liked me. I was big and a real athletic guy. So when I first came up, I was nervous, but I was with these great guys, and so they could kind of like help me, and I didn't really have to worry about like sometimes guys will take too much, and I didn't really have to worry about that because I knew these guys were going to protect me and help me build my character, and that was really beneficial. I feel like because I didn't know anything about that, so it was cool, and I feel like it was a lot of fun. The ECW stuff, of course, starting off was like just perfect. It was just like tailor made for someone beginning and getting to work with guys like Tommy Dreamer and Christian.
Working with those guys like Dreamer and Christian. I mean, especially Dreamer, and not taking anything away from Christian, but Dreamer had all that experience, and he had done that extreme style. So that had to be a perfect blend. You're on one end of the spectrum, a new kid, and it was an amateur wrestler. Tommy was just a broader and a good mind in professional wrestling. So he had to really coach you, and really you probably had to learn a lot working with him, right?
Still a very good friend of mine to this day. I learned so much from him. He genuinely cared about my success. We were working together when he won the ECW title for the first time, which was very cool to be a part of. And it was just cool because it had been a couple months that we had been together, and we actually, cared about each other and wanted each other to do well. And the day that they were going to have Tommy win the title, we had a three-way. It was me, Christian, and Tommy. And all day they were telling us that Christian was going to retain. Even though we had a little birdie on the inside telling us that they were just ribbing Dreamer and that he was going to go over, and they were going to tell him like in the middle of the match. And so,
yeah, don't you love those ribs like that? All day long. You're out there, you're on live TV and all this stuff, and they're pulling a rib on somebody. That is great.
Oh, you're one to talk, Jerry. They, you or they?
I know. That's the reason I'm using they.
Yeah. I love when they talk about they.
Oh my God.
They got a best clip of Chimmel where he's on stage and he's like introducing somebody, and Jerry says, "Nut check him." And the referee walks by and just goes, "Pow!" and just drops him. Yeah, they.
Yeah, they can be brutal out there times there. But, yeah.
So then, what was the deal? So when did they tell Tommy he was winning it?
They didn't wait until the match.
You know what's so screwed up about that? I mean, this is like a huge TV show. I mean, people work their whole lives to get a TV show like this, and we're pulling ribs on a huge TV show. I mean, it's so preposterous for an outsider to look into this.
That's very well said. Like, the pro wrestling world stands alone when it comes to how they do business. This is a pay-per-view. I think we were on first, maybe an hour beforehand. But like I said, we had a little birdie in play, so we had two matches set up, and it was just like little changes. We were ready for it. It was cool.
What's funny about this is like it completely changes the match depending on who's winning it.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're like putting you guys in a huge bind here on a huge global pay-per-view going, okay, guys, for our own amusement, we're not going to tell you who's winning the match until later. We're going to switch it.
And if it would have been like me and like two other rookies, like, you know, we would have been selling it. We would have been freaking out. I was very glad that I got to see how Dreamer was handling it. It was like, okay, this is how I'm going to handle ribs like this the same way. You're like, don't sell it.
Yeah, because you know they're going to happen. It's just people don't understand how many the world of ribs that we were in, especially back then. It was nonstop. And it was all from they.
They, yeah. Those you can't trust them. They, whoever the hell they are.
Jack, were you overwhelmed at all? Because I know most guys that came, I was. I'd worked a ton.
I was too.
Ton of different territories. I came in and all of a sudden I see, 14, 15 TV trucks. I see these big arenas, the Titantron and all this stuff. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Did you get that same feeling going from, say, FCW and Georgia and all the places you had been to all of a sudden this massive show that's WWE?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you watch back the Money in the Bank match where I'm unhooking the briefcase, I was on that ladder for about a minute because I would not take another step up because I was just so overwhelmed, like 100,000 people all around me on a 15-foot ladder. I was like, I couldn't move. It was funny. I was just reaching. The physical aspect and being in front of the crowd, I slowly got used to and I enjoyed. I got more overwhelmed with the politics and pitching storylines and standing up for yourself with they in the back when it comes to your character and the direction it's going in.
How was your mindset on adapting to that? I mean, you're coming from an environment like University of Oklahoma and an All-American and national championship. And I always tell everybody, were you nervous when you come out there? Well, you'd wrestled in front of a national championship. There are 50,000 people every session at those tournaments. So the crowd probably really didn't bother you. The crowd really didn't bother you as much as the environment bothered me. Were you kind of the same? How to look at the environment? I mean, here I am in Boston Garden. I see all those banners up there, all the greats and all that stuff. But how was that feeling to you when you started in a big?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to perform at a high level, but at the same time, I had a high trust in my body that I knew when the time was right that I was going to do it. And so before I would go through the curtain, I'd be very nervous, not nervous, but just anxiety performance.
Anxiety,
and as soon as I go through the curtain, I was lucky. I could flip the switch. I was the character. I was like in the moment. And I wasn't like seeing banners. It was hard for me to see the fans a lot of times. Like I knew people in the audience. Like I was like, "Where are you? I can't find you." You know, I'm just kind of narrow-minded like that, I guess. Yeah. But I definitely think wrestling and playing football in college and in front of big crowds helped me prepare for that because it's a lot and it can immobilize you.
It's hard to explain to people. I was back, a couple years ago and they wanted me to do a promo and I hadn't done one in forever. And I'm sitting there up before I walked out. I was the exact same way. I was nervous, and I thought, what if I forget it? Because I had a long promo. But as soon as I walked out, I was as calm as I could be, and everything, it was all there. It was all for me. It's just a weird feeling that you have when you get out there. It's hard to explain to people that once you get out there, you just feel comfortable and it's just, things just come to you. Your mind becomes clear. Everything's kind of slows down, and it's a fun place. It's a fun place to be.
Yeah, it is. It's a very cool job. And, what we say in pro wrestling is always hurry up and wait. We're always waiting around to get to that performance. And so a little bit of the anxiety has to do with that. But it is cool how it's just like a light switch, and you're that character.
What were you thinking when you got the Money in the Bank? I mean, was that did you know where you were going to cash in? Did you know who you were going to cash in on? Did you know you were going to cash in successfully? Well, I guess when they gave it to you, obviously, I think they probably think everybody's going to cash in successfully when they get it. First get it, then they might change their mind. But what was your process?
I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who I was going to cash in on. They told me a couple weeks before. And so I knew I was going to cash in, and I knew I was going to become champion. I think it wasn't until a little bit after me when they started doing like the fake and having people fail at the cash-ins, which sucks. But so this was WrestleMania Sunday. It was the last Money in the Bank at WrestleMania. And then Monday we go to Raw in Phoenix, and I did a thing with Cena teasing it, but Cena refused to do the job for me. He wouldn't put me over. So we just did a tease. And then Tuesday, Chris Jericho and Edge just had an amazing WrestleMania match. And they told Jericho, as I'm standing out in the hallway of Vince's office, I can hear Jericho yelling at the top of his lungs. And then they call me in there to tell me that I'm going to cash in on Chris that night. And he looks right at me and goes, "You better not fuck this up." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. Make everyone look good."
Tremendous.
Yeah.
And I forget, you guys went out and tore the house down, if I recall, on that thing too.
Thank you. Yeah, he was great to work with. We had so many great matches. That match was really. I was using a gut wrench when I cashed in, and right before I hit the gut wrench and flipped him upside down, he loosened his loafer, and so when I flipped him upside down, the loafer went flying into the crowd. I still have fans come up to me and telling me about like, "Oh, and his shoe went flying. It was so cool." I was like, "That's why he's one of the greats. Those little details."
Exactly, a little detail. Chris Jericho it was so good at that. I honestly believe that's what set Chris apart from a lot of people. He knew the little details to hit, and he was just superb at it.
Yeah, and you know what I've always admired about Chris? I knew him when he first started. You know, he knew me as well. We're both young guys in Japan. You know, he's doing the light heavyweight, junior heavyweight tournament, whatever they called it then. And I remember seeing him thinking, if this guy doesn't die, he's going to be great. You know, because they were doing stuff. You know DDTs off the apron to the floor. They were doing incredible shit. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so glad I'm not in this. I'm so glad I'm fat and big, because I don't have to be in this stupid junior heavyweight tournament. Like, oh my God, it would kill me. But the thing I love about Chris is he changes all the time. You know, he changes like every 3 to 5 years, you know, and Piper used to always tell me that, you know, like he'd say, you know, when you're the top guy and once they start copying, you change, you know, because he'd say, and to be the top guy, don't copy the top guy. You know, you can't out Hulk the Hulk. You know, people get that so wrong. You know, you see a top heel being a certain way, then all the bottom heels try to copy it, you know, or the top baby face, you know, and Chris has always changed. He's changed his finishes. He's changed. I'm a huge a fan of Chris because of what he's done. He really has longevity, not just by being lucky. You know, obviously you're a little lucky if you've been around that long, but because he's a smart guy. You know, he's a sharp guy, and he's really good at what he does.
Yeah. He's got great instinct for it, and you're absolutely right with the changing of the character, keeping it fresh. When I was at the WWE, I always said that I wanted that Jericho schedule because he'd be gone for 6 months and then just appear and be hot again. And I was like, you got to get like that. So it was very cool to work with him at AEW the last 5 years, and really proud of the inner circle and the shit that we got to do.
Speaking of change, Jake, when you change, you went with Coulter. I can't remember.
Dutch Mantel.
Dutch. When you went, that name was Coulter or something like that, wasn't it?
Zeb Coulter.
Yeah. When that had to be a big change. And was you familiar with Dutch? Because Dutch is a beloved guy backstage, a really respected guy backstage. You hit the jackpot when they put him.
Absolutely, I hit the jackpot, and no, I was not familiar. Of course, I heard the name Dirty Dutch Mantel. Triple H looked up to him, and he's the reason why they brought in Dutch. But I couldn't tell you a match he had. I didn't know anything about him other than the name. I definitely got a lesson though. Very cool to work with. I will put working with him up there with winning a world heavyweight title. Just such a smart guy. Done it all. Wrestler, promoter, creative. 50 years in the business. You know, just a unique perspective. And so cool. And I always say, like, one of the coolest moments is they brought him in to Nashville. and he's doing this like promo to kind of like a tryout to see if he's going to be my manager. This is like a couple days after the Elimination Chamber, and he did two, and they were pretty close. And then on the third one, just out of nowhere, no one told him to do it. To close the promo, he did "We the People," and everybody in the room was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And so for him just to be in the moment like that and read a promo for like 30 minutes and to like develop something like that really shows his mind.
They had asked me to get hold of him or get his number or something. They just didn't have it off the roll, wherever they had right away for Nashville. I remember that day very well because I was so wanting Dutch to get a job, and I knew if they could just give him a chance, he would get it. I had not a doubt in my mind. If you give that man a microphone, he'll have a job before he walks out of here. And sure enough, that hairy little bastard knocked it out of the park.
Oh my God. He came in with mustard on his sweatshirt and he goes.
I remember, yeah. I remember.
And he takes a dump in Corrado's office. I was like, "You're the man, dude."
I used to love when Dutch would tell guys, he goes, seriously, there's only a couple things you can't do. Heel and babyface. Dutch is so funny. I mean, he's just one of the most naturally funny guys I've ever been around, and just a good, solid dude.
And the road trips with him are very educational, not only of a funny aspect, but on the business side of it too. Because, like you say, there is anything in this business that he hadn't done on a high level.
The first time we were riding together, we did a show in Texas. It was a house show. And then we were on first, and then I was sitting at the monitor, and he was like, "Come on, Jack, let's go." And I was like, "Well, Dutch, they kind of like us to watch all the matches." And he goes, "Shit, you can learn riding down the road with me in 5 minutes than watching this shit."
How true.
That's awesome.
And then, like, anytime I would complain about something, he'd always go, "Jack, you got two choices. You can either do it or start your own promotion." I was like, "All right, I'm going to do it."
Dutch could break stuff down to the most simple common denominator. It was unbelievable. The Dutch could break anything down. It was so simple, and he'd explain it to you. And I love when he'd look at you and go, "You can't be that stupid." Dutch, I guess I can be. You're wrong. I can be.
Oh, man. He's the best. He is so fun.
That run you had as We the People, that was awesome. I just thought it was great. I know Vince loved that.
I thought it was really special. I don't think they realized how big it was. It was very popular. And it was just cool. Like you said, like, you give Dutch a microphone, he's going to get a job. He would come out there and we were, talking about immigration, which is like not an easy thing to talk about. And he would do it in a way to aggravate people, and they would be booing him through the entire promo. But then at the end of the promo, because he's not a lovable, hairy bastard, they would still say "We the People" with us. And we would go in the back and be like, "I can't believe they still said it with us after what you said." So it was cool to see that transform and go from being the bad guys to being a good guy with it and being like an All-American with it.
He had one of the funniest skits. We're down in San Antonio and he's down at the Alamo. Remember that? And he's got a clicker and he's counting illegals. He goes, "Yep, there's one. Whoop, another one. Bam. Two more." The way he did it, though, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's like no one can do that but Dutch Mantell and not get canceled. Not get canceled or throw off. He's great. He's great.
Yeah, he becomes more
Speaking of that, you guys had some angry letters come in from different organizations, right, about that character?
Yeah, when we first did it, it made mainstream news, and then like I know, like Glenn Beck got all in a tizzy about it, and then we got to do that cool video where we turned off the green screen and we broke character and told Glenn like, "This is a wrestling promo."
Yeah, you guys invited Glenn Beck to come down to the arena a couple of times, and he refused, right?
Yeah, I think they sent Michael Cole there trying to interview him after that, and they wouldn't let Michael in the building.
I think Glenn Beck now would take any gig you offer him. Funny how the self-righteous guys tend to implode.
Oh man. Yeah, it was very cool to be a part of it. I still think it's something that's topical and that we could bring it back today in pro wrestling. I wish we could. I wish we could bring it back one more time for Dutch and put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I wish Dutch would go in the Hall of Fame. I really do. I think he belongs in it. I mean, Dutch he's been a great booker at many different places. He drew heat everywhere he's been. I mean, Dutch is a great character. And Dutch is a wonderful guy just to have around.
Yeah, yeah. All the way around. When he was doing the wheelchair gimmick, we used to plug in his phone. He had like a big 20-foot cell phone cord, and we would plug it into the wall, like in like a main hallway, and we would pull him away from it, so it was like a clothesline. And then he would act like he was asleep in the chair, and like people would like try to step over the cord, and he'd like kind of lift it up with his hand, or they tried to rock around him, and he like pushed back with the chair so they like couldn't get around him.
And you guys added were you with Dutch when you added Del Rio also?
Yeah, I was. We were together, but we were like off TV, and then all of a sudden he came back on TV with Del Rio, and then we did another little feud with that.
Because I always thought that would have worked. I mean, I just thought it made sense. I know it never got really explained well on television, but I thought it could have worked. You know, having Del Rio there, you know, as part of the We the People. I mean, it was so preposterous that I thought it could have worked, especially with Del Rio, because he was such a great talent.
Right, and you just know that you couldn't trust it, but like he's still there smiling at you. I had great matches with Alberto. I thought he's a great talent and a great character, and just had like a presence when he was on camera. I wish that they would have had, like, I think that he came back and he won the U.S. title from Cena on a surprise or something, and then Dutch was with him. I wish they would have had me come out with Dutch, win it, and then the next night me drop the title to Alberto and have Dutch fuck me over to make it more clear that, you know, whatever. But it is what it is. That was one of the last things I did there.
Yeah, and they never explained it really well with Del Rio, and I thought it could have worked. You know, it's one of those things that you look at and go, "There's a lot of great pieces here. You just got to put them together a little bit different." And they never did put them together. You know, and for whatever reason they didn't. And, you know, one of those lost things, because Del Rio was such a great worker. He is a great worker. I just saw him down.
Yeah, he still is. He
still is. He's better now than he's ever been. I just saw him down in Mexico just recently. He looks better. He's always looked good.
Yeah. And that's the thing with pro wrestling. You want it to be wild. You want it to be out there. You want it to be magnified. So, like, if it's crazy, then, like, lean into it a little bit. I mean, like, we had Cesaro as one of the real Americans, and we were a very popular tag team.
Right. And, you know, one thing I never understood, I mean, wrestling's a work, and we know it is. I never understood why a guy like Glenn Beck or something would get upset about that. It makes no sense to me. You're talking about a fictional TV show that you're getting mad about. You're going, well, okay, so he's the world champion. He'd be the first one to say, well, no, that's not a real world champion. Well, no, it is for the genre you're in, but you're saying that's part is a work, but the part with the real Americans is not a work. You know, I never understood that. It's either a work or it isn't.
Right.
And he's one of the guys America turns to, or was one of the guys America turns to for serious news.
That's right. He was really big. He
can't distinguish the two.
He was really big at the time. I mean, he had a huge following at the time.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think it goes to show you that in pro wrestling, like, the best promos come from a place that is a little bit real. And, you know, this was definitely topical and on the social level. So I think that added to the power of it. And the fact that he's a little bit of a crybaby.
Yeah. I would think so. I think that's a great way to put it. So then when you got out of WWE, what did you think that you were done? Did you think that you were just going to, you got into the MMA after that? Did you know it? Did you think something else was coming? Were you hoping something else was coming? Were you planning on going ahead with your life? What were you thinking?
So this was like January of 2017 when I asked my release. I knew that I was going into MMA training, and I knew the plan was to do some MMA fights to make myself a bigger pro wrestler. At the time, independents were very popular at the time. Like Drew McIntyre was like really big on the independents. Cody Rhodes had just left and he was doing very well. So I was like, okay, I know I can go out there and wrestle for a little bit. But the whole point of going into it, like I was going into MMA because I wanted to come back to WWE. I was like, I'm going to come back and be a main eventer after going undefeated in pro wrestling. And before I left, I pitched the Road Dogg. I sat with them. I was like, I'm going to go away. You guys make it look like I'm fired, but the whole time I'm going to be training. And then after I win, I'm going to fucking come back here and we're going to do some business. They didn't take me seriously, obviously, but I got lucky that AEW came around and started building around that time. So I decided to go that route, and I didn't really reach out to WWE after I got successful in MMA, and they didn't reach out to me.
But, Jack, that's brilliant. I get so mad at guys that when they leave, they just kind of wait for a phone call. They just sit around and say, well, I don't know why they don't call me. Well, maybe because you hadn't done nothing.
Yeah.
You actually had a strategy to go out, which I think is brilliant. I mean, absolutely brilliant. I mean, that's to me how people make a name for themselves. You say, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna fight MMA. You went all in on it. You put all your chips on the table. You lose that first fight. You know how bad it would have been. I mean, that would have been it would have been a disaster. But you won it, and won it easily, by the way. And you stayed in your character, which was even smarter. And you had a plan to come back. So many guys when they leave a company, they say, well, I just want to get a call. No, you got to do something. You got to change something. You got to do something. And you did. I think that shows a lot of intelligence on your part and a lot of foresight on your part to have that plan.
Well, thank you. I'll credit Dutch for a lot of that too, because he told me, like, Jack, no matter what you do after this, you got to use the WWE in your next venture. You got to use your background here. You got to use what they did for you in order to find that next gig. And I was 100% a bigger MMA fighter because I had a following, because I had been a wrestler around the world for 10 years. And so that's another like little Dutchism. And then also, like, to do a crossover like that, I had great family and great support around me. Like I wasn't on my own. But it was wild. All I was good at was amateur wrestling. So starting off Monday through Friday, I'm doing 2 days a week. I'm doing one practice, the other 3. It's either boxing, jiu-jitsu, conditioning, kickboxing. And then I'm flying out on the weekends and I'm wrestling independents to pay the bills. So it was about 18 months of that before the first fight. And bro, I'm so glad I went through it, because like it cut the fat off my soul. Like it got me back to who I was. I'm a guy that needs the hard work, the structure, and I'm going to excel. You give me a little free space, I'm not so consistent.
Most of us aren't.
Yeah.
That's the thing with guys like you and JBL, the guys that were athletes all their life. They've had that intense training all their life. Then when you step away from it, you just feel mentally there's something missing here, and that missing is that constant training. We had Dan Severett on not long ago. Dan's one of these guys that have an attitude like you. Man, you got to be training every day, doing something every day to keep your mind sharp. Not only keep your body sharp, but keep your mind sharp. Is that the same type of focus you have when you're out there?
Absolutely. I find I am more mentally happy, more mentally focused when I have purpose, when I'm working towards something, when I'm driven. And it's really cool, like, to see what you can do when you get like that.
Jack, I hardly ever watch any Mr. Brisco. We got to be very careful when we do stuff, because we don't know anything that's going on currently, because we never watch. We watch a lot of sports. We miss sports. For 40 years, miss sports. So we watch every sport. We text each other during games. Me, him, and Ron Simmons text each other. We obviously don't text during Florida State games this year because
we have been, and we quit doing it.
We quit doing that. This isn't going to end well. But I turned on AEW. I don't remember. It may have been 2 years ago. I'm bad with time. I don't know. A year or 2 years ago, and you were doing something with a hat, and it was one of the most entertaining things I'd ever seen. Somebody had made fun of your hat, and I thought it was one of the most entertaining things I had ever seen. I go, this is good shit. I don't know what the hell that was, but you were doing something with your hat about a stupid hat. You like your hat. They didn't like your hat. And I'm sitting there just watching going, this is really entertaining.
Thank you, my friend. The hat, kind of pisses me off. I feel like it's more over than I am sometimes.
It was awesome. I had no idea what was going on. I just turned it on. You guys are all talking about a hat. I'm going, the hell are they talking about? Then I started watching it, and I got all wrapped up in it. I'm going, oh my God, this is entertaining.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of pro wrestling. That's the kind of pro wrestling I sign up for. If it can get over with a 3-year-old, it could get very big, and it was just so stupid, just silly. But in pro wrestling, when it's silly, you play it straight, and it becomes a thing, and it's it's a lot of fun to see where you can go with it if you're creative enough.
Yeah, it is. And I always say that the horse shit's the most fun. And it is. When you're doing the serious stuff, we all do it. You get into it, and it's but when you're able to just do the absolutely horse shit stuff, it's just that's when you're like, this is a lot of fun. Everybody has a blast during that stuff.
Yeah, because you never know what can come out of it. And with pro wrestling, it's so many possibilities. And that lightning will strike and it'll take off.
And you never know where that lightning's going to strike either. You could do some of the most ridiculous things in the world, like John's talking about with your hat. I didn't see that, but it sounds like it's great. But people, hey man, that's different. It's different, and I love that style. And that like you said, that's pro wrestling. That's the benefits of pro wrestling. You can hit back and stuff.
We were in Edmonton or Calgary or somewhere. I don't remember where it was. Way back, years ago. And Scotty Too Hottie had just come in and he started to do the worm, and Ron didn't know what it was. So Ron puts the boots to him. He killed the worm. First time Scotty had ever done it was at a house show. And Ron beat the shit out of him. And so we're riding in the car that night. I go, I think Scotty was wanting to do something. He goes, well, why didn't he tell me? I go, well, I don't know. So the next night, Ron called it. He goes, hey, do that worm thing. And he did it. And Scotty was just screwing around. The place went bananas, or Pat Patterson would say, the place went banana.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. And so the next night we called it again. He did it again. All of a sudden now he's made a living off that silly little, and people love that thing. Yeah. They used to go nuts in the arenas when he'd do the worm.
Yeah. When it hits like that every time, it's just so endearing to them.
So Jack, what are you now? You're with AEW. Are you going to stay with AEW? Is that what your plan, or what are you doing now as far as your career wise? You always had goals. You always had objectives ahead of you. What is next for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm excited to find out. My contract expired with AEW in June, so I just left them. I'm currently working independence, but I'm 42, and I think it's time to. I don't know. I want to find a way to be home more with my kids, and so I'm looking into more business opportunities, construction, rental properties, and I'd love to sit down with you, John, and get some pointers about announcing and maybe stay on camera that way. But really, just doing what I can. I had a great career, very blessed to have that career. So now. It's kind of easier, the pressure's off, and just try to be a good dad and good example for my kids.
You're only 42?
42.
Wow.
That's young. It probably seems old to you, but when you're old, like me and Jerry. Of course, Jerry is ancient. He's not old, he's ancient. But but 42 is not in the world today, it's not old. In the world 40 years ago, it was old.
Right. That's my brother retired at 42 years old. I think he's 43. He just turned 43 or something like when he retired. So you're right in that age bracket there.
Yeah, and medicine is evolving, and there's so much new technology. Like we were just talking about Jericho. I think Jericho's 9 years older than me, and he's still out there having fucking extreme matches. So I will do it until the wheels fall off. I am just trying to get ahead of it. I got a degree in finance, like we talked about, and to me, going into pro wrestling, I was always a little bit afraid of becoming the cliche pro wrestler, like no money after this big long career. So I'm excited to see if I can talk with some of the young boys and maybe help them retire and plan for the transition of when their time is up too, and they want to exit, but like they need income and just retire in general. Let's fucking retire, guys.
That's great, JK. What you said to get with other guys. That's something that, as you guys, both of you guys know, I always stress to these guys that your career is not going to last forever. You need to have that. I wouldn't say a B plan because it's not a B plan, but it's the A plan when you retire. What the hell are you going to do for financing and career opportunities? And that's the reason I think I got into so many different businesses. So when I did finally step out of the ring, I had something to fall back on. Didn't have to really worry about the income because I had a supplemental income coming in. You guys have always had that same mindset. I know the two of you.
Yeah. Multiple jobs, multiple streams of income. Because, like, the biggest thing for me was trying to substitute the income that you're making as a pro wrestler, which is very hard to do with no other
It's hard
experience.
to do, yeah.
And so there's going to be a big drop off from your lifestyle or your bills, and once you leave, and so definitely have to plan for it, and you definitely need 6 or 7 jobs this day and age.
This day and age, that's true.
Yeah. But it's a different world. When I first started, the old wrestlers, they didn't make that much money. I mean, not big money, and so when they retired at 40, 45, they had to do something else to figure out what they're going to do because they didn't make a ton of money while they were wrestling, and now as guys have gotten older, the business has gotten so much bigger. There's so many more opportunities now. There weren't autograph sessions back then. I mean, there wasn't the internet to do stuff. We lost
Where'd
Jack.
you go? Way to go, John.
Way to go, Jerry. Jerry, you ran him off.
Hey, well, he's a neighbor. He probably got that storm down there. You know how those Sooners are, John. I mean, their focus is not real long.
The one thing we agree on is we both dislike the Sooners.
Yeah, well, that's what we do have. That's the only thing we got in common, because you love Texas and I love Oklahoma. You hate Oklahoma and I hate Texas. I wouldn't say hate too strong of a word. Stronger than dislike Texas.
But we both dislike Oklahoma University.
Yeah. What'd you do? Just run him off? We didn't even get to say goodbye to him, John. Yeah. And I wanted to talk. Where you at? Jake was nominated and voted unanimously, John, and George Tragus Luther's Hall of Fame coming up this coming July. So I wanted to kind of talk to him about his feelings on that. But you were also honored in that museum. It's a great museum out there, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic museum, and it's something that any wrestling fan should go see. I mean, it's worth the trip. It's like a destination trip. You don't go through Waterloo, Iowa. You have to go to it, but that's okay because the destination is worth it. You got the Field of Dreams we went to last time. That's just probably 45 minutes up the road, which is pretty cool little place to go to. For the ballpark, and then you got the Waterloo, Iowa Hall of Fame, and it's awesome in there. I could spend a week in there with some of that old stuff.
I've been going for about 15, 16 years now, and there's always something new in that museum. They do a great job. Coach Jim Miller and Rebecca Roper, the office manager, they do such a great job in the museum, making it current all the time. So every time we go up there, you get a chance to walk through, and you see something different. And they're proud of the pro wrestling ring. They got a ring from the 20s up in the museum with all the memorabilia around it. They have Danny Hodge's robe. They have Dr. Death's even Sooner robe.
That's right.
There. And so they got a lot of Baron von Raschke. It's some of his gear, some of my brother's gear, and some of the all-time great amateur wrestlers that went on to professional career there. So it's a place, and we're so happy to have Jake come in to it. You know, he's well deserved All American, two time All American. We the people, so you know he fits right in with there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you say we the people?
We the people, yeah. And I'm sure Coach Gable and Coach Gable said, Coach Gable's such a, as you know, he's such a pleasant guy and respects our business so much. And
He
that's what
does.
people
He has a ton of
really,
respect.
and you can tell it's genuine too, because his speeches, when he talked about it, they're passionate speeches. You know, he gets it. We're entertainment, and that sport is lacking on that part of entertainment for him, and he's trying to create that entertainment for him, so amateur wrestling, can grow to the heights. We've had several conversations on it, and I said, Coach, you know, the more you try to suppress, you know, your sport and not go there, the more you're hurting it. And he said, I agree 100%. He said, some of these old school guys, or they just can't get out of that old school mentality. He said, I get what you guys are doing. He said, not only I get what you guys are doing, but I've seen what you guys have built here in Waterloo with the museum and all that. And he said, it's really appreciated. So
there's Jake right there. His phone died. He's going to read. He wants
dumbass sooner. Dumbass.
So he's going to rejoin us, and we will wrap up.
Oh, good. I'm glad he's going to rejoin us. Yeah, but if we right now we have Tank Abbott. He's confirmed to join us and join. We've had him as a guest, and what a great guest he was. What
he is entertaining beyond belief.
Yeah. So, you know, he's going to have to go some to top Don Fry's acceptance speech. So, to me, that
best
was
acceptance speech ever.
Ever at any genre of anything. Man, it was great. We have David Crockett coming in as the Gordon Solian winner, which is David Crockett is an icon in the business, plus his family is so historical in our business. We have the great Eric Bischoff accepting the Jack Brisco Award, the third annual Jack Brisco Award, and also that Jack Brisco Award. I'm going to show you what he's going to get here. We're changing the name of the Red Belt Award because there's only one red belt. Jack had the only red belt in NWA history for it. I want to show you a picture of it here, and not only a picture of it, but I'm going to show you what it's going to be. Take a look at this thing. Isn't this thing gorgeous?
That's gorgeous. It sure is.
We might have to nominate you again for the Jack Brisco Award so you can get
what an honor that would be.
Yeah.
Hey, and there's Jake coming back in.
Okay. All right, Jake. It's that little red button there for you Sooners that couldn't read. All right, Jake. Don't get mad, Jake.
Sorry, guys. I was late, and then my phone died. I'm really.
Well, you're a Sooner.
No problem. Hey, you need to hit your camera button. There you go. There you go.
All right.
There you go. And Jake, we're just talking about July coming up, and before we leave, I want to ask you about it. You were nominated and voted in unanimously at the Dan Gable Museum for their annual Hall of Fame there. So congratulations. We look forward to having you. I just tell them that the Jack Brisco Award, which you're getting the top award, but the Jack Brisco Award getting his championship belt for the red belt because there was only one of them, and Jack was the only champion that ever wore this belt. Then they changed it to black. So
that's amazing.
So congratulations on your honor. You're joining Dr. F. C. Williams, Danny Hodge, a couple other Sooners, Bill Watts, the Sooner. Several Sooners in there. Of course, there's a lot of Cowboys in there too, but there's several Sooners in there. So congratulations, man. We look forward to seeing you up in Waterloo in July. John been coming every year for the last few years. He was a Luthez winner a few years back there. So congratulations, man. We're looking forward to having you up there.
Hey, thank you so much. It's an incredible honor. And honestly, Jerry, I owe you so much for it. You got me my start in this business, and wouldn't be here without you.
Well, we appreciate it. You certainly fulfilled everything I thought you would be there. I remember, when I first saw you in amateur wrestling, you still had that football player's body, though. You didn't have that Jack Swagger body. You had that football player puffy body. You were trying to still be big, and I don't blame you. big guys get a good break there. But you still had that body. Then the next time I saw you, you'd trimmed down to that wrestler body. And holy cow, this guy, I better get in touch with him before somebody else does. So.
It's funny when you're on camera, you got to be more cut than more bulky because you look better. So get cut, get butt.
Isn't it amazing how fat you can look on TV? Or at least I can. I think, good God. What? Oh my God.
Oh my God. I see so many training cards of myself where I just got a boob out. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
That's the photo you chose?
That's right. Out of all the photos you took, you chose that one. Yeah.
Well, Jake, once again,
hey, thank you. I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see you. I've always enjoyed seeing you. Loved when you were with Dutch. I've always loved calling all your matches in WWE. I loved your MMA career. Brother, there's nobody rooted for you like I did. I was so happy to see you out there fighting and winning. It was so much fun to watch. But thank you very much for joining me and Jerry today. It's been such a pleasure to see you.
I really appreciate what you said, John. I always enjoyed talking with you. I always enjoyed ribbing that no good Primo cologne with you. And so
that's right. Yeah, all the time. That's yes.
I appreciate it, boys. It's so good to talk with you. Thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot, Jack.